Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Drop Pod. I am your host, Aegis. It's just me this week, but that is fine. Mel had some things that he had to attend to, which is all good. I was going to actually ask Mela to sit this episode out, so it was fortuitous that he just said, "Hey, can I sit this one out?" And I mean this in no ill will, but tonight's episode was going to be a little more serious in tone due to some topics that I just had brewing in my mind. And as I was about to message Mala to say, "Hey, can you set this one out?" About 6 hours before I actually started recording, he had messaged me through Discord and said, "Yeah, can I just set this one out?" Assuming he's taking care of some pets right now, so that's that. I must make a disclaimer to you, dear viewer. If you sat through Drop Pod 6, we had brought on Michael, and even though Michael had tried to explain the GameStop ordeal, he misspoke a little bit. There is a word that has a definite, different meaning than the way that he actually meant it. And I just want everybody to make sure that you curb your expectations. If you go back and listen to that episode, I don't want to draw too much attention to it. It's already bad enough that I said if you go back and listen to Drop Pod 6, just when Michael had showed up, he had explained the GameStop thing to Mala and I. He tried. But it was explained to us literally the night before I started recording this episode that there was some things that were a little bit wrong in that. So don't shoot the messenger. Michael tried. Shout outs to Michael and Mala for their appearances. When I started Drop Pod, this was meant to be a way that I could just have a more intimate, that was the word I used in Drop Pod 0, but a more intimate conversation with the viewers of Helljumpers and just people that join the stream and like the content. So this was a way that you guys could kind of learn a little bit more about, well, Aegis and the other people inside of Helljumpers. It's been a pretty wild ride since I decided to get more serious about content creation, and that's what tonight's main focus of Drop Pod was going to be. I wanted to talk about, just how I started versus where I'm at now. Something that I get asked about more than anything is how do you do what you do? Or how do you start a YouTube channel? Or how do you start a Twitch? How do you stream? What is this? What is that? And I make the attempt. And I hate to say that because try and attempt, those two words are words that make you entertain doubt. Because try and attempt basically says, well, I could have done this. Or, well, yeah, but I might do this later. Or maybe tomorrow. Or whenever. There's a different connotation to saying try or attempt to just saying I'm going to, or whatever variation of I'm gonna. This is what I'm doing. You guys know that I used to work at DirecTV I used to be an account manager at DirecTV for a bit. A full year, to be in fact. And during this year, it was a little too stressful for my age, and I just didn't enjoy the position. I didn't care for what it was. It's just a bunch of people, trying to sell others cable, and it's like, I don't care, man. I really don't. Strapping on a suit every day, watching people try to sell, or even, there were times where I even got down on the sales floor and tried to, get some cable. get you one. Obviously, that's not the sales pitch. Maybe one day I'll go through the whole process. That way, you guys know when you ever head to a Best Buy or Walmart and you see one of these guys, you just know immediately what to say, what to do. That'll be later. But I talked about my time there, but I never talked about the underlying things that I would do on a day to day. And this is going to lead into the episode, I promise. Something that I did recently at the start of the week was I picked up a journal when I went to the store. And when I had picked up this journal, there was no revelation about it. I just picked up a journal. There was something that I was missing from my day-to-day routine inside of quarantine. Something that I just wasn't doing. Something that I used to do so much. Because I felt like it was important to do. And that was write. I used to love writing. I used to be in creative writing from my freshman year of high school to all the way to graduation. That was my other elective choice, was just always, it was creative writing. Because I just like stories. I like writing. I like jotting down ideas. I like being able to form an idea from my head and being able to transfer it to something physical, something tangible, something that I can see. And that's one of the morals here. But more on that later. Just keep that in the back of your mind for now. While at DirecTV, we had everybody that would come in. Everybody would come in with their suit. Even if you were not a account manager, you came in prepared. Even, the ladies had their dresses and whatever. If they wanted to wear a suit, they wore a suit. Dress. Something that you would always see, anybody that worked, whether it was sales, whether you were on the account managing team, even the boss there, as much crap as I gave him from the other time I had mentioned him, he always had, and sorry about my mic there, but he had always had a journal. Because something that you had to have when you were talking about sales or when you were going to teach something was that you needed to have a student mentality. And I always carried that student mentality even after I had left. When I had turned 21, and I was so done with this DirecTV business, I said, you know what? Out of everything that was said to me over there, the most powerful thing is that you should never stop learning. There is always room for growth. That is something that I have always said. Something that was big during that time of DirecTV. I played Dota 2, man. I played Dota 2 from sun up to sundown. You would not catch me doing anything else. You would not catch me playing anything else. The only time I would play something else was on the off season. And when I say off season, it's because I had an esports team inside of Dota 2. That was from the age of 19 to 21. I was on this Dota 2 team. I had sunk so much time into Dota 2, man. And in retrospect, it was good for me. There was some bad things going on from 19 to 21. But something that was always a constant was this game. To rear it back into DirecTV, something that I would always do was apply that student mentality to Dota. Because there is always room to improve. Dota is as metaphysical of a game as I can possibly make it sound. Because there are so many intricacies of the game, especially back then. You had to know certain timings. You had to know when to pull a camp. I know some of you don't even know what Dota 2 is. It's a MOBA. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of it. If you like League of Legends, then you would know what Dota is, and vice versa. But you would have to learn about all of the different heroes, how these heroes interact with other heroes. What makes this hero pair well with this hero? What makes this item better than this item? So on and so forth. And I applied that student mentality to that game because I wanted to get better. And when you want to get better, you should want to learn, right? You should want to learn as much as you possibly can about the subject matter. Something that's often asked within the Discord of the Hell Jumpers is, Aegis, how did you? Right? I'd already said earlier. So something that I think is important is that you have a journal. You start writing. You start writing your ideas. Don't let those ideas bake into your head, because you might say something that sounds stupid in your head. But you write it down anyway. You write that idea down, and now you can revise it. You can look it over. You can see it for what it is on paper. How do you translate that idea from mind to paper, from paper to action? You have to write it out first. Then you start planning. Then you start making moves. Then you start wondering, okay, well, now that I'm doing this, how can I make this idea that I did better? How can I continue to improve on this idea? So that's what I've been doing. I would write meticulously about the hero that I played a lot, which was Meepo. I sunk so much of my Dota career, and in fact, if you guys don't believe me about the esports thing or this hero, I will leave a link in the description if you are on the YouTube version of this recording, of this podcast, sorry. I'll leave a link in the description to my Dota buff. Dota buff is a place where you can see stats and many other things about the player. On my Dota buff, you will see my esports profile, which will take you to the esports team I was in. But the very first thing you will see when you are on my Dota buff is you will see the amount of matches I've played and with what hero. There is no other hero in the game that comes even close to the amount of games that I have as Meepo. The only character, or the only hero, is my second favorite hero, which is Visage, who does kind of the same thing as Meepo, but generally speaking, the two play a little bit differently, have different roles and mechanics. The whole point of this was that if you just want to get better at something, you should not be afraid to write that down. I want to be better at X. I want to do this, this, this. So why not write that down? Don't let that idea die out in your head. You can forget something. You can probably just not even come back to it later. But as something tangible on paper, something that's legible to you, you can have that idea on paper, and like I say, come back to it, revise it, see how it looks, start making moves. Then, when it's actually set in stone, or in this case, ink is on paper, I wanted to talk about, I got serious about my Twitch. I got serious about my YouTube. Hasn't been long. It's been like a year. If that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I started getting really into it 2019. I guess that's a fair statement. It started out with Steven and I doing recordings because, I mean, this is what we did. This was our thing. Most of you that are old members of the Hell Jumpers, or just old time watchers of this channel, you guys will know that we had a previous channel identical to what we have now here at Hell Jumpers. And something I never did on that channel was mark out what I wanted to do. And by mark out, I mean I didn't pencil in any idea. I would just do it. There was no thought behind anything that I was doing. There was no chess with what I was doing. I was basically playing, I don't know, I guess Uno or something. There was no strategy, there was no stratagems to what I was doing. I was just do it, let's see what happens. Do it because this will blow up and I'll just be that one guy from that one meme where I just don't know nobody. Excuse me, sorry. That is the wrong assessment to have. And in my older age, I kind of understand that. That channel prior to Hell Jumpers, that was, I mean, hell, that was 2012, even 2010. 2010 onward to at least 2016, we had our fair stint of videos on there. Something I wish that I did was not delete the channel. That is the biggest mistake I have done. That is a no-no. You should not do that. And I make it a point to people in my circle that do content creation. It's like, okay, well, you are constantly changing. You are not static. You should develop yourself as a human being. There is no reason why you keep the same mentality that you had when you were like 10 all the way up to now when you are in your 20s or what have you. There is always room to improve. And I mention this because you make a video, you know, back in 2012 when you talked like, I don't know, like a California, like upper echelon brat. Like, oh my God. Oh. Instead of talking like that, you started to mature a little bit. You mellowed out a little bit more in your older ages. Things are fine. The views and expressions you made back then are not applicable to you now in this current age, right? So what you should do is unlist that video. You should never just say cold turkey, I'm just going to delete this, but it's not representative of what you are today. And it's like a boss going over your resume, right? Or going over your social media. You're aiming for this job. This is your dream job. You have one shot at this. But you had said something in 2015 on Twitter when you were like 15. Because of that one thing you said, that screwed up everything. Right? So I never really understood that because, I mean, I'm sure there are like even bosses out there that have used social media and they must have said something outlandish, but I mean, they got theirs. They have a job. It's whatever. It's just strange because I don't know why my Twitter is something that I was using personally should affect the business end of me. It's weird. So move on though. When I started Twitch, I never had any aspirations to do anything with it. It was just a way that Steven and I, Peekaboo, the co-runner of Hell Jumpers, could collaborate a little more often because, I don't know, laziness would catch the better of us. We wouldn't post anything. It was whatever. It wasn't until that I started getting more people to chat basically in Twitch chat. I was playing Dark Souls and I would sit there and I would watch as the number would go from, 0 to like 2 or 2 to 3. And I'm seeing, maybe 2 people come into chat. One person I knew, the other person was a new character. Though character isn't the right word. I would say another person come into chat and start chatting me up about, oh, are you new to this game? Do you know about this? And I appreciated that. And I continue to add it because repetition is good. If you find something repetitive, but you're trying to get better at it, I find that to be a good motivator for you. You should want to continue that streak, right? Because repetition will build the memory. The memory will just be second nature to you at some point. Something that was also said at DirecTV was we're creatures of habit. We don't like being told this, this, and that when we're so used to doing what we know. So it's hard to convince somebody to do something that you want them to do and just hope they make out. This whole episode is going to be very opinionated, obviously, but the one thing that I want to throw out there is I can only tell you guys what I do. As far as that goes, it's whether or not you drink the Kool-Aid and you decide that this is what you do. I should have prefaced this earlier, and I'm apologize now, I guess, if you've made it this far. But when I started Twitch, there was just no aspirations about anything. I just wanted to play video games, and that was it. I had a YouTube. In fact, the YouTube that you are currently listening, the YouTube that didn't make any sense. The channel that you are currently listening to this podcast on is the same YouTube channel I'm referring to. So there was no anything. It was just do the motions and stream when I can, and that's it. There are some very key factors that go into just starting a Twitch. It's one, is this something that you want to do? Second, is this something that you're trying to do for money? Because if that's the case, that's a no-no. That is something you should... There are a couple of people that will disagree with. I find it a little more nuanced to just saying, I want to do Twitch, I want to play video game and make money. Buku bucks. That's a very insidious thing to do. Your goal as a personality, content creator, what have you, is to be genuine about what you're doing. I can see clearly what you're doing. You're playing a video game. If you're somebody that's just chatting, your goal is to build community. It's not to wait until somebody sends you a donation. That's very insidious. That should not be your end goal. My end goal in Twitch is to be big enough to where people just kind of know what the Helljumpers are. That's my goal with my community, my group, is that people just know Helljumpers existed. And if I reach that end goal, then there will be a new end game somewhere. But for right now, that's the ultimate goal. People know that Helljumpers were even there. The thing about Twitch is if you're trying to start a Twitch, you can't be surprised when you don't have any viewers. This is probably my biggest factoid for this episode, is that you can't be surprised that nobody had showed up. Right? And there will be outliers, of course. There always is. Nothing is static when it comes to just you being a personality. You decided to broadcast to others. But Twitch doesn't have the way that it was explained to me, doesn't have the sort of headroom to just usher you into the fold and everybody just knows that you're there. Put it this way. If you're one of those folks that wants to stream Escape from Tarkov, or do you want to stream Warzone? Let's say you stream Tarkov 8 hours a day, or you stream Destiny 2 8 hours a day from sunup to midday, and you're just done. And you didn't make a single new friend, you didn't get a follow, nobody came into chat. You can't be surprised. And this is one of these things that I learned very recently, because I had it so fucked up. And pardon my French, but I would play Destiny 2 and I'm thinking, okay, well, the the game's not niche, it's Destiny 2. The gunplay, the movement. If you liked Halo, you love Destiny. That's just what it is. Playing a game like Destiny, everybody else in that game, it seems like they're all trying to do the same thing. If they have Twitch TV in their name, they're just after one thing. Don't be surprised when not many folks show up. Twitch doesn't have that sort of growth mechanic. That's why you kind of don't even see it on YouTube. I don't see it much anymore. I mean, it used to be a thing. You put, I don't know, like YT at the end of your name just to kind of tell people, like, hey, I'm over here, I'm over there. If you like what I'm doing in this game, if you like that I'm fucking you up in this game here, go check out my YouTube. I had never seen that work. Never. I don't know why people do it. Actually, no, that's wrong. Of course I know. Because obviously you want people to show up. But you are doing the exact same thing that everybody else, it seems like, is trying to do. You're not standing out. And you are definitely lumping yourself in with the crowd that doesn't know who the hell you are. It's not helping your headway any. It's not helping your growth. So why do it? If you want to help your growth, you need to cross-pollinate, basically. You need to... And this is the only reason why I didn't delete my Twitter. I initially made the claim that I didn't want to be on Twitter anymore. But after looking it over, I talked with my sis. And we both basically came under the agreement. It's like, well, if you want to do this seriously, you kind of need the Twitter. You need your Facebook. Start posting on YouTube more. That's a big thing. Start posting on YouTube. There was a streamer named Ludwig that had basically a seminar for how you should grow on Twitch, and I recommend everybody at least checks it out. Take everything that he said with a hint of salt, but check it out. One of the things that he mentioned was how every YouTube video has the potential of just being its own lottery ticket. Because YouTube has algorithms that could push you into, front page or trending or whatever. You put the right tags on a video, people are searching that up. All of a sudden you have a little more people conversating with you. Might get a sub here, sub there. These are things you shouldn't concern yourself with when you just start, though. Things you should be concerning yourself with are, what type of content creator are you? And that's something that you should definitely write down. If you're gonna put pen to paper at any point during this podcast, this would be it right here. You need to discover what type of content creator you are. I describe myself as a narrator of sorts. I host a podcast. I'm easy enough to listen to, from what people tell me. I don't know if I inherently believe that, but people enjoy listening to things I have to say. So I describe myself as such. I'm a narrator. I'm a gameplay personality. I'm a gameplay personality that's building a community. I review topics on gaming and world events on a podcast from week to week. And once you discover that about yourself, so now you can start making, content based around that. Okay, well, narrator. Okay, I like horror. I'll start reading some horror stories. Okay, yeah, let's do that. I play games. Okay, we'll start playing some horror games. We'll start uploading those. Let's start uploading some niche horror games that I think nobody really knows about, but I want people to find out. Let's start a podcast. Screw it. Get recording. Talk about whatever you want on that podcast. Do you enjoy horror? Okay, well, now this is a horror podcast. I like the recent Netflix adaptations of Death Note, or I can't wait for the Netflix Resident Evil to come out. These aren't my actual findings, but these are just ideas, right? And like I say, you put these ideas on paper, now they're tangible to you. Something you also need to find out is, what are your influences? People have said, and Ludwig had said, who are people that you emulate? And I find it I find it a little brash. I think it's better to say, who are your influences as a content creator or a personality or what have you. It's like your favorite band, right? Like one of my favorite bands is Deftones. And who influences Deftones? Deftones is a new metal band, or I guess you could say alternative metal now. But their influences included Faith No More, The Cure, Depeche Mode, Meshuggah, Duran Duran. All of those influences turned Deftones into what they are. I think it's important that you know who influences you as a creator, because you can't just say, oh, well, nobody influenced me at all. I'm sure you had a writing project somewhere around the lines where it was like, where are your childhood heroes, or, you know, who inspires you? I'm sure you all had an answer at the time to that. Certainly for the grade, right? It's the same here. Who influences you? Who makes content more in line with yours, and you feel like you could learn something from them? That's something that's big with this, dear viewers, that you feel like you could learn something from this individual. Obviously, don't try to emulate somebody that's, you know, one of your personal buddies. They're maybe have like 20 subs to their name. They're starting the same as you. Now, you want to choose somebody that you've been watching for some time. You like their personality, or you like the content that they make, the content of their character even. And this is what you try. And I hate using it, but this is the only word that I can find, forgive me, that describes this. Some of the creators that, and I recommend choosing 3 to 5. If you can, choose 5. But these are 5 that I could just name off the top of my head that I just know. One is Critical. Critical has been a huge inspiration to the videos that I've made from the time of the original channel, not Helljumpers, but the one before it, all the way to now. It's present in the descriptions. I put down Indeed at the end of every description, because Critical put in his famously, this is the greatest whatever of all time. But I find Critical's humor both dry and sardonic. He was monotone, which is huge, because he's been around forever. And at the, earlier in YouTube's, lifespan, when there was a huge boom of just like gaming content creators, one of the things that was always told to you when you wanted to, make it was, you need to have more personality in your voice. Well, you take a guy like Critical. He's very monotone. He's very chill about his reactions, right? You watch him play a horror game, there's no real reaction, because that's how he feels. Like that's what it is. He doesn't have much of an emotion about it, because it's whatever. It's like, oh, the spooky ghost, boo. All right, fuck off. Some of you might be like, oh, okay, whatever, guy. But 2 was Markiplier, because I like his edits. Another person that has been around forever, about the same time that I have been around. The only difference between me and Markiplier is that Markiplier actually did write and did this, right? He made it. He's one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform. He has good edits. He's also monotone, but he has a little more emotion to what he does, especially if he's with a group. I feel like that's what I take away from this the most, is that, he has some really good edits. He's constantly trying to, especially if you watch a stream of his, he's trying to help people find their value. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, before college, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. That's what I initially wanted to be. But then I just said, eh, I don't really care anymore, man. And that's the wrong attitude to have, but that's the one that I gave. And I just said, you know what, I might do something with video games, or I might try to do writing more seriously. I've always loved writing. Maybe I'll do that consistently now. But Markiplier, he just got to work on this. He was consistent. He posted. He did what he had to do. He got his friends in on it, Bob and Wade. And he's just one of the more classic channels. So if you need inspiration, you look at these two individuals between Critical and Markiplier, and you just see, all right, these are two guys. They've been around for a long time. What are they doing that I'm just not doing, right? 3 is Lazy Masquerade. Lazy Masquerade is a horror narrator. He's a storytime YouTuber, basically. He reads stories from various avenues, from Reddit to even 4chan. His narration is good. He's very good at his cold readings, which is very important. It's very important to put it, when you can put your own spin on a story and make it seem like it's not just you're reading words, but this is what you're saying. I find that easy to listen to, right? So that's just good. Number 4 was Astacross. Astacross is a Destiny 2 content creator. He is informative. He has a lot of energy, especially when he streams. He's just very energetic about what he's doing. So polar opposite to me. I'm more mellow out, but that's strangely enough, that's how he acts. He built a community. Like, this is somebody that has like a pretty sizable Discord. He constantly has people that are ready to play video games, play Destiny. Find groups to play Destiny. And I think that's good. My 5th and final one is Meat Canyon, who is a very recent YouTuber who's like been on the come up since his original viral Bugs Bunny cartoon that got pulled down by Warner Brothers. But I find his humor dark and surreal, which is humor that I like. And as a horror fan, I feel like that's more in line to what I am. I played necromancers and ARPGs. I like reading scary stories to people on the internet. Dark humor and surreal humor. It's that art form that he does, to where he can make that work and people either can laugh or they can have a good think about it. I think that's really good. Something else that's really important from Ludwig's stream is that if you're writing these down, so you already have your creators, you have what you are as a content creator. We already discussed this. You have to set a start date. I don't care if you've been doing this, if you've been on Twitch since Jesus left Chicago. You do this now. When do you actually want to start? When do you get serious about this? Because it's all well and good that you've been on the platform since late 2012 or whatever. What are you doing now? When are you going to start this now? Sorry. And you need to find that within yourself. You want to start today? You want to start tomorrow? Write that down. Just so that you know, this is when I had gotten serious about this. This is the time where I actually put the effort into what I was doing. This is this. And I don't care if like, oh, well, everything I do is effort, and oh, I put so much time and effort into this video I did, and that stream went for 10 hours. Oh boy. Do this. Because there's going to be something about this later. I'll explain after I get through this initial bit. So we have 3 things that we have already written down between the creators that you take inspiration from, the type of creator you are, what's your start date, The fourth most important thing, and this is it. What are your goals for this year? Don't have it confused with what are your goals, or sorry, what are your resolutions for the new year? No. What are your goals for this year? And you want to pick something, you want to pick a few things, but pick a goal where you are 100% in control of. Don't just say, oh, well, by the end of this year, I want 5,000 viewers on every stream that I do, because that's not how that works. You need to pick something that is tangible and you are in control of that. I want to learn how to cook more. That's a goal. When I stream, I want to stream for at least 6 hours every time I do it. Otherwise, it's half-assed, right? When I do YouTube, I want to at least post 3 YouTube videos a week. Those are goals. Pick things that you are in control of, where you are not dependent on the actions of someone else. And that's going to be a powerful, powerful tool to grow yourself. And I don't mean to get so artsy-fartsy about it on this week's episode, but when I went to the store, and again, there was no revelations about this, but I knew that I wasn't doing something that I obviously should have been doing. Because it used to be a hobby of mine. I used to like writing. I used to like making stories or jotting down how I felt for the day. Even if it was in a journalistic format, this is something that I did just in case I wanted to come back to it later. There's only a few times that I did this for the original channel, but after that, I didn't do it at all. And that's something that I've been missing from this formula, was just being able to, if I had an idea, I should put it down, because there have been times since Drop Pod began up until now where I'm just like, man, I should have enacted on this idea that I had in my head. I should have enacted on this video idea. Oh, it would have been really cool. I don't care how many people watch, but it would be cool to at least have it down. So we covered that. The next thing is just starting your Twitch, right? You figured out that you want to do something on Twitch, right? The first thing that you have to do is start elsewhere, though. You have to make good on Twitch through other channels. YouTube is a powerful tool for that. I already mentioned that. Every video that you make has the potential of being a video that just gets traction, and through that traction, you're building a sizable community for yourself. And I say this with no, oh, look at the testicular fortitude. Well, this guy has 100 subs. Thinks he knows how to get started on YouTube. Now, don't get it twisted. This talk is more for me, even. I'm a part of this, right? I'm the guy talking. This vessel, Drop Pod, this podcast that I use in order to shell out my ideas to you guys. It's an important tool for me, too, for growth. So, yeah, I want everybody to at least simmer on it. Write down your ideas. Don't let them fall by the wayside, because you never know. You never know. You might have an amazing idea, even if it's not something related to content creation. Maybe you have an idea for an invention. Well, you obviously jot down what you think you should invent, right? You get down to sketching it out. You put out a rough draft. You start revising it a little bit more, and now all of a sudden you have this product. The only problem is if you leave that in your head, you obviously don't believe in that, because that's what it is. It's just an idea in your head until you have it out on paper. Until you have it at least somewhere where it's physical to you. And I think that's important. I had mentioned why it was important to have a start date, right? And something that's important to understand is that if you couldn't do that, then this isn't for you. If you honestly just couldn't do that for yourself, where you couldn't just jot down, okay, when do I actually want to start? If you can't do the bare minimum, then you should forget about trying out Twitch or trying out YouTube. Just stick to what you do. But if you're serious, you have to write things down. You have to at least, if not even on a journal, then, pull out that notepad. Know where you keep your journals on your computer. But you need to write something down. You need something tangible to hand. You need like a storyboard. Then you have this. This is something that's physical to you. You can jot on this. You can mold it into what you need to be. And people might be, sitting here and going, oh, Aegis, this is all, it's whatever, man. Who cares? And that's good. And I had mentioned this, right? We're creatures of habit. And it's hard to try to force people to do something that they don't want to do. But the whole idea is that there are going to be a few of you out of every 10, out of every 20s, out of every hundreds that will hear this, that will go, all right, I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid here. I'm going to start writing some stuff down. And that's the big moral of the story. Don't let your ideas die out. That's basically what I want to say, right? It's a crazy year in general. Like this whole pandemic, nobody thought things were going to last this long, right? I feel like if you let the day go by, though, like, what did you actually do? I know a lot of people, especially in my personal circle, we're talking about doing X thing and doing X thing here, and then I would hear, the next week, oh, I didn't do nothing, man. I just kind of sat around. I enjoyed what I was doing. I find it a little profound when you're able to humble yourself and just, all right, what do I want to do? Okay, let's start writing down what I think this is. And I think the more people that hear this, the more that it'll help. I know there are a few of you that do need to hear this. I'm not going to call anybody out, who needs to hear this. What you do with this information is definitely up to you. I can only tell you what I would do at the end of the day, as said earlier. This is what I did. And for the entire week, I've just kind of been, writing my thoughts, my ideas. An idea for a video I had here, a series there. What do I want to do with this series that I was doing? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let me know on Discord what you guys think. But this is what I did. This episode was going to be a little shorter. In fact, I didn't even think it was going to go this long, but I didn't want the tone to change. This is what tonight's episode was going to be. And again, I appreciate being able to have like a solo episode every now and again. I feel like that's good. Because again, this is meant to be more of like an intimate kind of thing where I can just, this is what I think about this and that and whatever. I have plans on adding more people to the show. I didn't, my initial plan for Drop Pod was I would have a lot of people from the Helljumpers be able to jump on and talk about whatever their heart's content, but so far it's been Mal, and I appreciate Mal for sure, because he's helped me out in just making good that I'm doing this, show. Initially in Drop Pod 1, I was meant to have another person from the Helljumpers actually be in that episode. And before that person, I got to recording Drop Pod, what was going to be Drop Pod 1. I got to recording, and I was waiting on this person to show up. And what had happened was I basically ended up recording Drop Pod 0 on the spot, just to see, okay, well, this person, they stood me up, but now this gives me a chance to see if I can even carry this as a host. Do I have the know-how to basically talk to myself? And through this vessel, do I have the ability to talk to you guys? So that was that. Before this individual, though, I was meant to have Steven on the podcast, and I had explained to him my schemes and like, oh, this is how we should record this. We'll use this program, and if you can do that, that would be cool. And he had said, listen, bro, if we're doing this, I'm gonna be playing games, and we're gonna do this and this, or sorry, I'm gonna do this and this. So I went back to the drawing board, and I was like, well, am I being too overbearing on this? I mean, we don't know if it's gonna go anywhere, but that's not the point of the show. It's like I would do this even if one person was actually giving a fuck about the show, because to at least know that somebody's coming out to listen to me rabble, that's good enough for me. And I would continue to do that because I mean, this is something I wanted to do for a while, which was make a podcast where people could have something that's easy enough to listen to. But I went back to the drawing board. I'm like, well, am I being too overbearing? So then I kind of changed up the formula to just being, okay, well, I'll just record it. Anybody that wants in, just hop into the voice call. Just I'll be here, man. Just do it. And Drop Pod Zero, I got when I had made the new Hell Jumper logo, the logo that's present on the streams, on merch that you can get at aegiscxvii.live/merch. Let me know what you think of the designs. I have a shirt myself. I might do some reiterations later down the road, but for now, I like what we got. Yeah, but I basically just said, yeah, if you guys see me and call, I'm in this channel here, just jump in. Just know that I'm recording for a podcast, so it turned into a different thing once we had the logos, and I'm like, okay, well now I can do this and that with this. I did a little animation here, added some nice little text there, and we got going. Episode 00 did really well. I was really impressed with how good that turned out in terms of the correspondence, which I very much appreciate, because it continues to let me know that I should be doing this. First and foremost, episode 1 came out with Mala as his first appearance, and that did extremely well, and I'm glad that people enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think of these more serious episodes too. There was a comedy special that Dave Chappelle did. Let me search for it. I think it was called the Bird and Revelation? It was Equanimity and the Bird Revelation. It was a more serious. One of my favorite things that he's done recently since he's been back was the Bird Revelation, because he sits down and he kind of just breaks down what he thinks about showbiz and his long break from it, and he's still joking about certain stuff, but he's being serious about the subject matter. And I think if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. Give it a listen. I thought it was, a lot of his views were pretty good. I mean, sorry, a lot of his takes were pretty good for the time, which was like 2017. When Louis C.K. was in the news and all this other stuff was going on surrounding that whole thing. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like I say, let me know what you guys think about these more serious versions of the show. I still haven't decided what I wanted to do for the Patreon, but I'll eventually figure that out. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening, wherever you might find this podcast. Stay safe.